Hello and welcome to Nigeria Now, where we look at various issues that are actually happening here in Nigeria, from politics, economy, policies, and there are quite a number of things. And we'll beg your indulgence to join us live on Facebook and on YouTube as well. You can drop your views on any of the issue we will be bringing this afternoon to you. My name is Sele Laishadasho. I'll bring the program with Rachel Tansey. Good afternoon, Rachel.
Afternoon, Sally.
All right, we have quite a number of issues we'd love to tackle this afternoon, and we would love to start with just recently, yesterday, we saw that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has promised to actually uphold the media freedom. We will recall that, the freedom have not felt very free to actually express itself, especially when you talk about newspaper. We're seeing that the president have actually promised that he is going to uphold freedom, whether the press is actually with the government or against the government. The president has said he has no problem. And a lot of time, Nigerians cannot help but remember during his campaign when the president said that. He doesn't even go to social media. You don't know what is happening there, because if he goes there, he might actually develop blood pressure or something, because there are a lot of things happening over there on that space, and he feels that space is not for him. But we're seeing him, talking. This happened when he actually had the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, and he has promised during that meeting with the members that he's going to uphold the freedom of the press. Over the years, we've heard in various, not just in Nigeria, but in also other parts of the, the world, where the press are not permitted, or they do not feel free, actually, that's the word, to actually express the truth. Sometimes they have been tempted to be biased in giving some of their judgment, so that the government of the day will not feel hurt eventually.
Yeah.
But here we're seeing the president, from what he's saying, the freedom have all the liberty they have to actually be there. And then we saw that, Daily Trust paper was there during there. We had this day, and a number of newspaper proprietors were actually present during that meeting. And I'm happy, coming from the president, that is to say that we will see that there's going to be a balance when it comes to giving of reports, that the media will not feel threatened in any way, that when they say something, they will be attacked or anything whatsoever of that nature.
Sally, usually when it comes to the press, there are regulations, and of course there is a need for freedom. But you see, what I love about this promise from Tinubu is it's easy for you to say certain things, but it's one thing for you to uphold it. And when we will know that the president would be truthful to his promise or come true is when the papers turn and it's rather criticism to his government, because you're just new in office and everything on the paper so far is just Nigerians expecting certain things from you. But trust me, Sele, 1 year later, 2 years later, that wouldn't be the narrative on the paper. It will be questions that the president will need to answer. Now, this is when we will truly know for sure. This is me just going a little bit far ahead into the future and saying, okay, president, we appreciate this because truly the media needs certain freedom. And, that freedom is one of the reasons we see the paper putting this number, another paper saying this number, another paper in fact, one of the reasons we see every headline similar is because everybody's just depending on what did this paper say. Hope we're safe to say this, because I want to believe that of these individual papers have their investigative journalists, for example. It's the same with every media house. It's the same when it comes to our papers also. They have the investigative journalists. And what that means is that the information I will go out and get there, Sele, it shouldn't be the same with what you get. But I see sameness in our paper. We read the paper, Sele, every single day, and you can see at least 5 papers with the same topic. And then you can see that they are just trying to hide under a canopy of the same safety. Or if it goes on that paper, I think we're safe to say the same thing. I think we're safe to say the same thing. Then it feels like it's one person writing over 5 different newspapers. They just try to tweak it. Why are we not getting in-depth information that is different? I should be able to get a different point of view. I should be able to get a detail that is not misleading, but a genuine and concrete reason when you read different papers. That is why we have them, not just for us to keep seeing the same thing on almost all our paper. So this also shows you that, okay, yes, there is some level of freedom that the our printing presses don't have when it comes to news. And then it is important for them to have it. And then with this promise from the president, I believe that this means more work. It means more work. It means now, if you are now given this freedom, you need to go out there and express that freedom. Don't just sit down and, as a newspaper company, depend on third party. You need to be the first party in that information and that news, and you should be able to bring it to people. And it's one thing also for press to just give it out there to the government, but you are also being bought sometimes. And this is also one thing we don't want to see coming with your freedom, because I know there could be abuse of that freedom. We could start seeing things that are not supposed to be. There are regulations, of course, and regardless of the president's promise, if you as a newspaper company go against it, you'll be sanctioned. So this is also to caution them that, okay, don't take this for granted and all of that. And also the president promised that there is going to be more access to paper and printing press that is down at every level, because we are seeing there is complaint that, you know what, there is a need for more newsprint, that this is not enough. There are policies and regulations making access to newsprint really difficult, and it is important to have that. And then he promised to review and see into such policies. And I just hope that this is not something that needs to take really, really long.
A very long time.
If we can be quick about our monetary policies, I believe that access to newsprint policies should be reviewed quickly, and then to just give more access, availability to news that it should be. And it's all about, we keep talking about information gaps and all of that, and we know the newspapers for years, decades in Nigeria have been doing their best. I believe this will give them more access to doing their best. So let the president really act fast about it, and this shouldn't delay. And 3 years later, we are still waiting for certain reviews or policies.
You know, Rachel, when I saw this promise coming from the president, I couldn't help but I think about a year or two ago, there was a time that most of the print or the press that we actually had, our prints, were complaining about access to information being denied. I mean,
yes.
so most of the paper access, like they were being denied access to information. And it's one thing for the press to have the freedom, that's talking about our print, to have the freedom to actually express regardless of what it is. But it's another thing for them to be given access to the information. You remember when we had the hearing in the Supreme Court and that, I mean, there were hindrances to, you cannot actually show the faces of those who were giving. This was just one out of many other information that Nigerians felt they were being denied the access to have this information. So in as much as you are giving them the freedom to actually go ahead and express whatever they feel is necessary, because it's one thing for you to actually have the freedom to give out, but it's another thing to make sure that the information you're giving out is what the masses need. Because a lot of things, I mean, there are times that, I mean, our viewers, our readers talking about the press, they just want to hear things that their itching ear want to hear, but then you should feed them with the right information at the right time. So we should see that in as much as the government is looking into reviewing some of these policies, making sure there are access to local newspaper, especially right now that we're going to the digital time. Sometimes it's very difficult for you to have access to the papers digitally. So I'm hoping that as the president is looking into this, let them also have access. The press should be given access to information so that when you are looking at it, I mean, will not be seen, just like you make a quiet observation about where you'll be seeing the same stories on some papers, and then other time we'll be seeing some papers having something different from it. Well, we are hoping to see that, I mean, we'll stand for it. We keep saying that we are the watchdog of the society, so we'll stand for what it is. We'll be very prompt with our information, and then we'll keep watching and then being sure that we're being given access to every information we need to have. Now, to the bone, or to actually the main company that I would like us to look into. I mean, this has been a story that has been going on for several weeks right now. In fact, this crisis, we just can't help to wonder what is really happening. And we're seeing that it seems, Rachel, finally there's peace. It seems there is peace in River State. And the reason why I make emphasis that it seems is because we're seeing that yesterday there was an agreement between the former governor of the state, who happens to be the minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, and the present governor of the state, Sil Fubara. We know they were having conflict despite the fact that Wike was the godfather, or he actually sponsored the election of Fubara. But we think that it seems to be having some issues where people cannot really place their finger what really is the problem. And we saw where there were pro-Wike loyalists, and we saw where there were Fubara loyalists, and it seems as if River State was divided to some extent. And we remember the president came in initially, he actually intervened, but then it seems as if whatever he tried to do fell into deaf ears, because we just saw that the crisis just kept escalating to the point that the governor had to bring down the House of Assembly over there, the State House of Assembly over there. We saw where about 25 members had to defect from the PDP to the APC. We saw where it seems as if we're having two speakers in the House. And then we saw the governor also having his own live band, day your day, my day, my day. We also saw where Wike also at a point when he was the governor, something like that actually happened. Maybe that was between Amici and Wike. And a lot of people say, I mean, this is like a repeat again. Now, questions are coming out from this agreement. What gave, I mean, a lot of people felt that, okay, let the president come in again, call Wike, because I think most of people's concern was the fact that the president should call Wike to order, because he seems to be interfering in the affairs of River State when he is supposed to be concentrating on his work as the minister of FCT. Now we're seeing that, I mean, there was an agreement that was brought out, about 8 of them, Rachel. And a lot of questions went through my mind. Some people are actually commending the president for coming through. Another body or another school of thought felt that the president do not have the constitutional right to intervene, because in as much as the president has executive powers, the same goes to the governor of River State. He also has executive powers. So why did we have the president coming in here to actually intervene? Now, another question is the agreement. How protected is the governor of River State? Because if looking at the agreement, Rachel, I would really like us to look at those agreements, because that agreement will actually give us room to discuss elaborately what is actually happening in River State. I don't know if we can have those agreements, please, because I think it's important. Now, let's look at the first 3, Rachel. The first one here says, all matters instituted in the court by the governor of River State, Sim Fubara, and his team, is in respect of the political crisis in River State shall be withdrawn immediately. Secondly, they say all impeachment proceeding initiated against the governor of River State by the River State House of Assembly should be dropped immediately as well. And then the leadership of River State House of Assembly, led by Right Honorable Martins Awubore, should be recognized alongside the 27 members who resigned from the PDP. Now, Rachel, I have a concern, especially with number 3. It said it should be reconsidered. Now, you didn't tell us if they are going back to PDP or they will be retained as APC members. Now, the question here is, it seems the governor was kind of in a box to this, because looking at the first 3, eventually we'll look at the remaining 5. And then that will give us a broader knowledge of what really this is. Because to some people, they feel that this is more of an arrangement than an agreement. Because this just seems as if it was being arranged just so that we can have something on ground for these 2 parties to work with. But then beyond that, there should be more, Rachel.
Yeah. I mean, Sarah, it's one thing to just make the president come in, step in, sign a peace agreement, and then just give him that heroic status. When is that all? That is the question. Like, is that all? Was that all was needed for you to just have a closed door meeting and then come up with an 8-point agreement and then we move? But obviously, even with the first 3, we can already see loopholes. Because now the question is, who is the Speaker of the House of Assembly of River State? I mean, is it Martins or is it Edison? Because that's who the court says is the Speaker.
From that agreement that it's Martins, not Edison, because Edison was actually on suspension then.
But we also, when we had the plenary, who did the governor
And
put
actually,
the budget? So it is still open. Nothing is closed for sure, because first of all, in a House of Assembly, there is majority and minority. And the majority has to be the governor's majority. And we are talking about party here. because in Nigerian governance, there's still politics, whether we like it or not. For some reason, we made it that way. Because just as we said, are they going back to APC and PDP? Are they remaining there? Now, if they are remaining in APC, we know that the agenda for APC is not the same as PDP. And we are having a governor under the party PDP. Now, are we okay? He will still eventually bring back his budget, because that is one of the things stated in this agreement. And if he brings this back, how sure are we that these defected lawmakers will support him? Because for them to have broken out, it means they do not even agree with the governor in the first place. So how are we sure that you are in a house of over 32 lawmakers and you have over 25 not on your side? How is the governance of Rivers State going to be? And these are all the many questions that I don't think this agreement solves it. It doesn't. It only makes it worse. And it doesn't feel like peace has been restored. Just as you said, it feels like just an arrangement. Can you just agree to this? Let peace reign. Let's move. And the president have stepped in. Just respect. It feels that way. Because I believe an agreement, solutions should come out of an agreement. But I'm not seeing solutions in this agreement so far. And that is a major concern.
You know, Richard, let's look at the last three as well. I think it's important that we look at the last three. And then the last three there we have, it said the governor of Rivers State, Sim Fubara, shall represent the state budget, which you mentioned, to a proper constitute Rivers State House of Assembly. I think we can also have the last three if it's ready. And then the names of all commissioners in Rivers State Executive Council who resigned their appointment because of the political crisis in the state should be resubmitted to the House of Assembly for approval. And then the last one, which is number 8 on that agreement, said there should not be a caretaker committee for the local governments in Rivers State. The dissolution of the local government administration is null and void and shall not be recognized. Now, Rachel, just like we said, quite a number of loopholes in these arrangements. Because just like I said, it looks more like it was just an arrangement than an agreement. Because where there's an agreement, both parties are taken along. And a lot of people could not help but say this is Wike 1, Fubara 0. Because a lot of things after that meeting, that closed door meeting, from the body language, you could see that it seems more like Wike had a very nice time. And Sim Fubara did not feel carried along. But it's one thing to have this agreement, Richard. It's another thing for this agreement to be implemented eventually. Because right now, he will have to take this agreement home, back to Rivers State.
Of course.
And then people kept asking the question that even in that meeting, we saw that the speaker for Fubara was not present there. But we saw Honorable Martins present there. That just shows that a lot of people feel that, I mean, the APC
he was secluded. I mean, he was excluded rather from the meeting.
From the meeting.
He should be present.
And it looks more like a deliberate act to actually sideline whatever Fubara wanted to do about this. And a lot of people feel that, I mean, APC is fighting its way to get Rivers by all means.
I mean, Sele, like, it feels that way. And what I don't understand is why did the commissioners resign in the first place? Because it's still the governor. Right? Fubara is still the governor. Regardless of whether the lawmakers, these 25 lawmakers defected to APC, they are still lawmakers. We saw that INEC is not going to run any election. And even before then, there was no such thing. Election wasn't going to happen either way. It was just still a feud back and forth. Now the question is, why are we having commissioners resigning? You are not political. And this is for me where I see there is no solution whatsoever in this agreement. Because in the first place, who asked these commissioners to resign? And why are they resigning based on politics when your position is not a political assignment? You were not voted into that position. So if APC, PDP is having problems, how are you having problems? Because now we are now going to see reappointment of commissioners, new screening. So whether we like it or not, we now have 25 lawmakers that are defected to APC, and it means we're going to see new commissioners. We're going to see everything.
They said they should submit back their data, so the House will have to look into it again.
So what is happening in Rivers? This agreement doesn't feel like a solution.
You know, Rachel,
It
I mean,
feels
if
like
you
more
ask me
problems.
personally, the feeling we're having here, it seems like the responsibility that was supposed to be given to the judiciary, because this was the work of the judiciary to look into this thing.
Yes.
And it seems as if we are doing away with the constitution in everything we're doing.
Feels
We
that
already
way.
have a provision in the constitution that said if a member defected from a party to another party, automatically your seat will be declared vacant.
We have that.
So why are we having a reverse here? A lot of people feel that the president just used his power, the executive power, and just, so we are not having the rule of
just
law at play here.
suppressed, but didn't solve.
So,
every
so
single
to some
problem.
extent, a lot of people are also feeling that maybe the constitution is the reason why we are where we are right now.
Perhaps.
Because a lot of people have been playing politics with the constitution, Rachel. You remember from when we had that of the appeal court,
We've
or whether
seen a lot
the
of that.
FCT is part of or not, and there was a
Yes.
different interpretation, and a lot of things. And then so it just feels more like people pick the constitution when it favors them, and when it doesn't favor them, we see it being trampled upon. So I really think that this should call for a thorough review, honestly, in as much as for now we can say there is peace,
We
but
can
I
say that.
cannot guarantee how long
It's
this
not
peace is
guaranteed,
going to
Sele,
last.
yes.
Because you remember during our morning show we said that, I mean, it's one thing for this issue to be tackled from the roots, because when we are having the roots rotting and you decide to cut from the top, we'll still be having the same
We
thing
will.
over and over
Yeah.
and over again. So I'm hoping that beyond the president calling these two together to have this agreement, we should be having that the real root problem should be tackled. That is the only way we'll see peace. And we're just using Rivers State because there are a lot of states that are actually going through a lot of decay as well. But it's just that it has not been brought to the limelight the way it is in Rivers State. And we kept mentioning the fact that Rivers State is a very important state, because if there is no peace over there, it will affect our oil production that we're depending solely on. So I'm hoping that we'll begin to see more proactive measures when it comes to resolving political issues, because right now politics is at play. And we just hope that we'll begin to see governance. We'll be able to say that democracy is actually at the heart of whatever it is. If we are having freedom of the press, we are having freedom in every aspect. Let us see then, as much as they said that the governor should not interfere with the powers of the legislative, let's also see that the governor will be given his executive power to actually do what he feels will actually work for him in River State eventually. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for doing
You're
this with me.
welcome.
And thank you also to our viewers and our supporters at home for always keeping it in with us on the program. Until we come again, do have a blessed day ahead.